Julian Sayin took another step forward, leading Ohio State with confidence and control in the win over Illinois.
You are Locked On Buckeyes, your daily podcast on the Ohio State Buckeyes. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome in, Buckeye fans, to your Monday edition of Locked On Buckeyes, which is your daily Ohio State podcast, part of Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. I'm your host, Jay Stevens, veteran sports talk host, delivering passionate coverage about your Buckeyes. And today's episode is brought to you by Mazda. Like our players, we sweat every detail because when you make every move count, pulling off the unexpected is only the beginning. Stay tuned later for highlights in this week's Moving the Game Forward, Mazda, move and be moved. During today's show, we will discuss the potential of a new wrinkle with the Buckeyes defense, as well as the importance of Ohio State always being ready for battle. But first, Julian Sayin has done a great job of not only earning the title of QB1, but owning it. He has showed up every single week and showed everybody around the country that he is the right man to lead Ohio State's offense. And while he's the right man to lead Ohio State's offense, he must find ways to be poised and to have clear control and command of the offense when every opponent is going to throw their best shot at the Buckeyes. And he has done that from the Texas game all the way through beating Illinois on the road. Julian Sayin has been up to the task of showing up and handling whenever the defense throws his way. And it showed up once again over the weekend. It's Illinois going into the game. You know they're going to blitz a whole lot and do it more than the average team. And the secondary isn't the strongest. However, Illinois has done what other teams have done. They have thrown wrinkles at Ohio State, and they have shifted their own philosophy to try to overcome what Ohio State's offense can do best. But one thing Julian Sayin did, he didn't get rattled. He didn't get flustered. He continued to play solid football, and he led Ohio State to a 34-16 win. And in this win, a couple things that stick out to me is that he consistently is confident. He consistently has full control of the offense at times when it would be easy for him to not be confident or easy for him to not be up to answering the call that Heartland puts down to the field. But he doesn't back down. Even the fact of a guy of his stature going on a QB sneak, and I think he got 4 or 5 yards on a QB sneak. I mean, most guys his size don't want to do that, but he understands this is what the team needs of me right now. And also, as I lead the entire offense, the other 10 guys need my trust, not only when it comes to making a great pass and a great throw to Jeremiah Smith on 3rd and 8 during the first drive of the game. They also need my trust when I am getting the call to do a QB sneak, and they need to make sure that I have my technique down, and they need to make sure that they can trust me to get the first down. And Julian Sayin's numbers from this past weekend, once again, I mentioned it in the reaction show on Saturday after the game, they weren't the sexiest numbers in the world. 19-27, 70.4 passing percentage, 166 passing yards, 2 passing touchdowns, passer rating 146.5, which I don't have the Texas numbers right in front of me. That could be his lowest passer rating. I know it's not his lowest passing yards thrown. He had that against Texas, but all in all, he's doing a really good job. And I know there'll be people that say, like, Sayin can do more, and I'm one of them. Lest I get it twisted. I am a person that believes that Sayin can do more. But while he can do more, he understands that maybe more is me making better decisions, not the coaches calling different plays. Because you're 19-27, there was a bad throw. I think about one right now where it would have been a touchdown, or just literal miscommunication between Cardinal Tate and Julian Sayin, or his 3rd down. If communication was correct, that would have been a touchdown pass, almost an easy routine touchdown pass for this offense, but it wasn't. Now, go back to a throw that I talked about earlier when it was 3rd and 8. He made a throw over the middle to Jeremiah Smith. It was on the money. It was in rhythm, and Julian Sayin was right there. Also, he made numerous throws that I put down in my notes because they were just big boy throws. A 3rd and 6 pass to Jeremiah Smith in the second quarter to the right sideline, and it was just like, oh, this is routine. Over and over and over. The 3rd and 6. There's a 3rd and 9 pass that he made to Cardinal Tate from the left hash to the right sideline. It was one of those Cardinal Tate caught that ball. He dragged both of his feet. It was clear as day that it was 2 feet down. There was no questions or doubt about it. And Julian Sayin, that left hash to the right sideline, there are a lot of NFL quarterbacks that can't make that throw. And I'm not trying to just be funny and make light about NFL guys. It's more about what Julian Sayin is able to do with his arm talent that he has right now as a youngster. He is doing things right now that there are guys that are 4 and 5 year college football players that never do the things he's able to do. They are never able to accomplish some of these throws. They actually alter their game, and play calls are changed to assist with what these other quarterbacks do best. Well, Sayin is showing he can do whatever they need him to do with this offense. And a lot of it is decision making. 3rd and 9, that was the 3rd and 9 pass, or the 3rd and 6 pass I mentioned earlier. He threw a pass up the seam to Max Clare on 2nd and 11, and I believe this was in the 3rd quarter. And Max Clare defended pretty well, but Julian Sayin not only threw an accurate ball to Max Clare, it was the ball placement on this particular throw that was thrown to where the defender could not even get to it. So it's either going to be a Max Clare caught pass or an incomplete pass. And Max Clare caught it, quickly secured the ball, and then he got tackled. But it's Julian Sayin's ability to have complete control and command of the offense and to make the throws when they're needed. It's not just the 3rd and long throws or a pass on 1st and 10 to Jeremiah Smith. It's also some of the 2nd and long throws where you're behind the sticks. How can you get in front of the sticks? By making the right throw with the right ball placement every single time you're on the field. And speaking of numbers, Julian Sayin leads the Big Ten in a couple statistical categories. One is completion percentage, which is now at 78.4. He also leads the Big Ten Conference in passer rating of 188.1. Now, one quick note about passer rating. Unlike the NFL, there is no cap on how high your passer rating could be. In the NFL, the highest passer rating you can have is 158.3. And so that could easily be inflated up to 205, 220, 280. If he starts doing the things he was doing, let's say against Grambling, where he completed 94.7% of his passes, or against Minnesota, where he completed 85.2% of his passes. If he does that, along with more 300-yard passing games, you can see that number keep getting higher. And my expectation for Julian Sayin is you're going to get more of what you got from him against Minnesota and against Washington and against Grambling and even Ohio. Not so much what you got against Illinois. Because as I was leading into the game this past weekend, I remember a flashback. I think it was to 2023. Illinois played Michigan. I believe it was game 11, right before Michigan played Ohio State. And I'm watching that game, and I'm looking up there and seeing what Illinois is doing. That was a very physical Illinois football team, a very solid, fundamentally sound defense, a very believable coach. And Illinois almost knocked them off, but almost upset Michigan. And so I remember that game and thinking, wow, is that going to be something that Ohio State is going to have to deal with, where the defense plays their best game of the year when Ohio State comes to town? And I think that's what happened. I think Illinois also is not the team that lost by 53 points to Indiana. And they're trending towards the right direction to being a team that beat USC, that also beat Purdue after that loss to Indiana. While they lost to Ohio State, I think they're going to be fine. And one of those teams down the road that could be a 3rd or even 4th Big Ten team making the college football playoff. Speaking about things Ohio State needs to do to make sure they're in the CFP, not only in the CFP, but that they win the Big Ten title, because I think that's what's going to happen this year. It all goes back to a statement that is made about people that are always prepared for anything that happens, whatever comes their way. We'll discuss it after the break. This episode is brought to you by Mazda's moving the game forward for those who believe it's not just about playing the game, it's about redefining it. There are moments that do more than put points on the board. They move crowds, move culture, and keep moving the game forward. This week's moment that moved the game forward goes back to something that Jermaine Mathews Jr. did this past week, and he came on a blitz from the top of your screen. He was completely untouched. Next thing you know, he goes around the offensive lineman, I believe, that was right in his way. He gets to Luke Altmaier. He knocks the ball out. Buckeyes recover. The next thing you know, Ohio State scores another touchdown. And Jermaine Mathews Jr.'s ability to adapt to a role that he doesn't normally play from being an outside corner. Oh, you need to play nickel back today. And he stepped up and filled those shoes and played phenomenal ball against Illinois. When you follow what moves you, the unexpected is only the beginning. And just like there's more to every highlight, there's more to a Mazda vehicle. Mazda, move and be moved. Thank you all for tapping and Locked on Buckeyes and making this show your first listen of the day. I am always thinking about things Ohio State has done very, very well and how they tie into a Monday episode of the show, where this one is primarily going to be an offensive heavy show, but in this segment, we're going to trickle into a little bit more of a defensive conversation in the latter part of it, because this next statement goes into everybody that plays Ohio State football. You don't have to get ready if you stay ready. And that goes, that's a big reason why Julian Sayin has played the ways that he has this year, is because every single wet game and every single time he's out there, he is ready for whatever is thrown his way. Even being able to make adjustments in game, which I think a lot of, not just a lot of young quarterbacks, a lot of quarterbacks struggle with the ability to make adjustments in game. One thing that I think helps Ohio State's defense right now is having Matt Patricia on the sideline, not just having him with the team, but having Matt Patricia on the sideline. That ability for Patricia to look into the player's eyes and to go and sit on the sideline after the team comes off the field and says, hey, this is what you're doing right. Here's a tweak we need to make based off what they have showed us so far. And that is huge. But for Sayin, I am still blown away at his ability to be prepared for everything. I mean, by the numbers, I don't have every single game breakdown and stat right in front of me, but by the number for Sayin, you can't get mad at what he is doing. He completed 70% of his passes last week, 85% against Minnesota, 78% on the road at Washington. You can't complain about a guy that on his worst day has completed 70% of his passes against a Big Ten opponent. And the one that was the worst, it was the number 17 team in the country. I'm not sure how they're not ranked. I'm not sure at all. Also, I don't believe that I know Illinois is not ranked. I know Washington is not ranked. A lot of this SEC / really SEC bias doesn't make any sense. Illinois should be ranked. I know they have 2 losses. I know one of them was to Ohio State. I have more respect for Illinois after the game than I did before. Same thing with Washington. Ohio State just controlled and smacked Washington around. I had a lot more respect for Washington after that game than I did before. And then Devon Williams did what he did to Rutgers, 400 passing yards, 100 rushing yards. Make it make sense, AP voters. I wasn't planning on doing a rant of the AP voters today, but y'all, this needs to be said. Sometimes AP voters do a great job, but then there are some, not all, that don't look at the entire country or put more stock into some games than others. Make it make sense. If Illinois were in a different conference that's primarily in the South, and if Washington were in a different conference that is primarily in the southern portion of the country, I guarantee you they are ranked teams. 100%. For some reason, these voters right now think, oh, they're in that conference. Oh, they're in that part of the country. They're not worthy being in the top 25. Make it make sense. I know this is an Ohio State podcast where we talk Buckeyes every day of the week, but you got to make it make sense. Illinois is a top 25 team. Washington is also a top 25 team. And I guarantee you, if those 2 teams play schools down in the other conference in the South, I guarantee you they'll make more noise than a lot of people think that they will. But I got to get away from that because that wasn't expected, and that's not why we're here today. What we're here to talk about is the Buckeyes, not just Sayin, but the defense, the offense, even special teams at times being prepared for whatever comes their way. And that goes to Ryan Day. This version of Ryan Day we're getting this year is the version of Ryan Day I think everybody wanted to get in 2019. We took over for Urban Meyer, but that's not realistic. Now, it could have happened, but it's not realistic because if you go from being primarily an assistant coach in the NFL to a couple of years of being an assistant coach for Urban Meyer, then all of a sudden you get the keys to the program and you get to take the thing wherever you want to. That's a lot to throw at one person. Ryan Day has had a lot of success. I think what is he, 76-10 as a head coach in college football in his collegiate career. That even means an undefeated regular season during the COVID year. If they could get to the national championship game that year, that even means a Big Ten title in 2019 and beating the team up north in 2019 in his first game playing in the Big Ten. His first time coaching in the Big Ten title and against Michigan, he had wins in both of those games. Also, a natty win last year. And so he's done a lot of great things as a college football coach. And I think he is a big reason this team is as prepared as they are for every single game. And also, Ryan Day is not a guy that's going to just be out here, oh, we're going to be, and we know that the speed limit is 70 miles per hour. But, man, we can coast at 35 and not be as prepared and still be undefeated through this point in the season. No. Ryan Day is saying, look, we got to make sure that we are ready for whatever happens. We got to put our foot down on that gas and make sure we're not going to get pulled over by the cops, but we're staying where the speed limit is for us right now. And I think for Ohio State, it's hard to look past anything and without saying Ryan Day is doing a great job. And it shows up with the team's preparation. His ability to give Julian Sayin more and more and more, and Sayin's ready for it. His ability to hand the key to the defense over to Matt Patricia. And while Patricia has guys that he didn't really recruit, he's able to work with those guys and get the best out of them and squeeze everything he can out of that orange. Also, another side note here, I have made the mistake at times of saying, oh, somebody's having success with so-and-so's guys. I did it with Ryan Day. We're saying Ryan Day had success with Urban's guys. Those weren't his guys. And I feel like it's a knock against Ryan Day because while Ryan Day didn't recruit them, he was coaching them. And he is a big reason why they had these success. And that thought came into my head because I thought about the dynamic of Jim Knowles now being at Penn State and Matt Patricia now being at Ohio State, where Matt Patricia didn't recruit any of these guys. He is having insane success with all of them right away. And so it's very, very easy. And sometimes it's bad analysis when you say, well, he's not having the success he is supposed to have because those are recruits that he didn't bring in. Nobody has brought that up with Matt Patricia. Why? Because while those guys that are new faces in new places on the Buckeyes defense, those guys are new. They're not really experienced. They are still really, really talented, which is why Patricia can come in with the other assistant coaches that are still there. There are no new assistant coaches on Ohio State's defense. There are only, outside of Patricia, it's Patricia's a new face. Everybody else has been there previously. With that combination, along with guys like Tywell Malone Jr., and Arvo Reese, Mathews Jr., Lorenzo Styles Jr., Jalen McClain, with these guys that are stepping up, Patricia's saying, okay, here's what you do well that I have seen you do. Here's some things that we think you might be able to do, but we got to see it on the film first in the game before we realize if we want to do it over and over and over. And he's figuring out a way to work with what's already there. So if somebody says, or when somebody says, oh, those are somebody else's recruits, he gets a pass. You say, well, Matt Patricia came into Ohio State, and he is working with Jim Knowles recruits, and he's just fine. So it's not about the recruits. Sometimes it's about the coaches. And there aren't any new transfers outside of Bo Atkinson. There aren't new transfers out here that are guys that are transfers that are consistent players. Bo Atkinson and Logan George, I think, are the only two, and neither one of them start. Patricia's getting their job done. He's helping make sure this team is prepared for anything that they might see offensively. And while being prepared, they're also prepared to adjust on the fly, which is a big reason why the Buckeyes defense has been as much fun as it is to watch this year. Speaking of being fun to watch, there's a possibility of a new wrinkle on the Buckeyes defense. And y'all, I think that'll also be a lot of fun to watch. episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Guys, the NFL season is here, and FanDuel has an offer you don't want to miss. Right now, new customers can bet just $5 and get $300 in bonus bets if you win. That's right. Pick a bet, put down $5, and if it hits, you'll unlock $300 in bonus bets to use across the app. I love how FanDuel gives me so many ways to play. I've built parlays, tried player props, and even follow the live lines during games. It makes watching football even more exciting when you've got a little something riding on the action. Whether you're a casual fan or love diving into the stats, FanDuel makes the game day experience so much better. So what are you waiting for? Visit FanDuel.com to download the FanDuel app today and get started. This episode is also brought to you by our friends over at Monarch Money. Most people can't name all the financial accounts or even what they're worth, whether it's 401ks, properties, or investments. And when you don't have the full picture, you can end up leaving money on the table. That's why there is Monarch Money. It's an all-in-one personal finance tool that brings your entire financial life together in one clean, easy-to-use interface on your laptop or your phone. Monarch is built for people with busy lives. If you put off organizing your finances, Monarch is for you. Monarch does a heavy lifting for you. You can link all your accounts in minutes, see clear data visuals, get smart categorization of your spending, and finally feel in control of your money without ever touching a spreadsheet. You can identify that you aren't saving as much as you thought. Monarch helps you notice an inefficient investment allocation and discover forgotten 401ks from past jobs. Don't let financial opportunity slip through the cracks. Use code LOCKEDONCollege at monarchmoney.com in your browser for half off your first year. That's 50% off your first year at monarchmoney.com with code LOCKEDONCollege. Thank you all for tapping Locked on Buckeyes and making this show your first listen of the day. And in the game against Illinois, Ohio State had a decision to make because Lorenzo Styles Jr. wasn't healthy. With his absence, the Buckeyes, one, had to realize who the next cornerback was going to be to play, and then if they were going to move somebody from the outside corner to inside. And they realized Devin Sanchez, the true freshman, the former number one corner in the country in his recruiting class, he was the next guy up. I think he played pretty good, actually better than pretty good for it being his first start. But also, they moved Mathews Jr. from outside corner to inside corner, and it seemed like the perfect time to do so because Illinois' best receiver plays slot, and Hank Beatty's pretty good. And when you move you're an outside corner to inside, one, you may question the physicality he's able to bring from that spot, but also you're putting a better cover corner, a better man-on-man guy on Illinois' best receiver. And I think moving forward, that will be a wrinkle you're going to see every now and then. Now, it's not going to be a game that's something that's going to happen in every single game, but I would see a scenario where Matt Patricia might figure out a time where another team has a really good slot receiver, and he says, no, Lorenzo, you're good. But I think the best thing for right now is Iggy on one side, Sanchez on the other outside corner, and then you have Mathews Jr. play in the nickel corner spot. Also, not only do I think it might be a thing that happens in the future, should that be the starting corners? I don't know. Ohio State's best secondary since Ryan Day was there was a secondary that legitimately had three corners there. Even last year's secondary was good. So I'm not really going to say the best. For 2019 to 2024 and then this year's secondaries, there is a legitimate argument about which one is the best. I still think 2019 secondary was better than last year's, but Jordan Hancock was kind of a Swiss Army knife, but he could play nickel and be fine or either safety spots. In 2019, I know it's Jeff Okudah on one side. I want to say Damon Arnett on the other. Then you have Sean Wade in the slot, on the nickel corner spot. Three true corners there. And that was legitimately, or potentially, those are the three best corners Ohio State has had since Ryan Day was there. And I wouldn't be shocked if Ryan Day wants to go back and turn back the clock and say, if that was my best defense, at least best secondary, and those guys at corner all have similar traits as some of these guys here, How about we try and do that consistently? Now it's a game-by-game basis. If you have a team that's a little more physical and they are more of a run-heavy look, you may want to play Lorenzo. But if you think Mathews Jr. could play in the nickel and not be a liability with tackling, maybe you start Sanchez. I don't know. Something to think about, because I don't think it'll be a bad wrinkle at all. I personally don't. I would actually be in favor of more Sanchez, Iggy on the outside, and Mathews Jr., that is, at the nickel corner spot. What about you? What are your thoughts about that? Because I'm very curious about what Ohio State fans think about that trio. I made some comments in the reaction show after the game on Saturday, and Miss Carla did a great job of not just taking in what I said, but also the way she said, "Oh no, you're correct with what you said." I don't try to be too nitpicky when some post game pods, because I know it's very spur of the moment. You're reacting in real time to what we just watched, but the things I saw with Igbenogson, while they didn't hurt Ohio State a year ago from winning a national championship, they could hurt them this year from beating Michigan, winning the Big Ten title, or even winning another national championship. Because let's be real, and let's think about something really quickly before we close up shop. And I'm going to make a comment that I didn't think I would make on this show, but it's where we are in college football. Ohio State faced Indiana in the Big Ten championship game, and Fernando Mendoza is really good. And he has found a way to raise his level of play, while Cignetti has found a way to coach Indiana up to be a better team than they were a year ago. They just went on the road to win in a place that Ohio State lost last year. Just keep it in context. And if that is the case, that Ohio State and Indiana play in the Big Ten title, one, it'll be a lot of red in Lucas Oil Stadium, but also that's a future NFL quarterback that is going to find a way to take advantage of guys that are prone to get flags thrown their way. So if you want to make a switch and you want to try to help guys and maybe try to alleviate some of the penalties that are thrown one guy's way, the best thing to do is to start doing that now. If it's a personnel change, great. If it's a technique change, great. Whatever you have to do those things now. Because if it is Ohio State and Indiana, I would still pick the Buckeyes to win that game. But I think that quarterback would find a way to maybe not pick on Sanchez as much, but to throw at IGB a lot. Now, he did have 4 pass breakups against Illinois. We don't want to gloss over that. But he had too many too many flags thrown his way. And there were sometimes a flag wasn't thrown his way where it was obvious that a flag should be thrown. Igbenogson is good. He has gotten better. But some of them old traits are starting to creep back up. Well, y'all know it's hard to teach an old dog new tricks, and he's not an old dog, but he's been doing a lot of these things a whole lot of long time. And it's hard to break those trends. I think this is a good time for Ohio State, Ryan Day, Matt Patricia, to figure out if a change needs to be made with the corners, and if so, is it a consistent thing or is it a game-by-game basis? If it's consistent, give me Iggy on one side, Sanchez on the other, Mathews Jr. right there at the nickel corner spot, and let it ride. Or, which I don't really think this is the best thing for Ohio State, if you want to put Iggy on the inside and Mathews Jr. on the outside, I could see that working, but it still might lead to more penalties being thrown and more flags being thrown his way. So the main thing is, if your top 3 corners are Igbenogson, Mathews Jr., and Sanchez, that's great. Also, you got to figure out how to work with old boy number 1. I don't know why I said old boy like that. To work with number 1 so he does not consistently but hold and get flags thrown his way. Thank you all for tapping in Locked On Buckeyes and making this show your first listen today. For your second listen, check out Locked On Big Ten, because Craig Sheeman breaks down the most exciting conference in college sports, from the rivalries to the championship and every game in between. Find Locked On Big Ten, and Locked On Buckeyes on YouTube or wherever you listen to podcasts. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. You can follow me on any social media platform at jstevens07. Send every email to jstevens317@gmail.com. This has been Locked On Buckeyes on a Monday. We'll see you next time.